Wow, I've been really excited to talk to this woman who's written a book that I just she's weaved such a good tale together. It's so easy to read, and I have the bad news to tell you that once you pick it up, you will not be able to put it down. So make sure that you have the time to read it because it's just excellent. And you know how I am. Certainly I read a lot of books, but this one was a page turner. So joining us now from the Netherlands is Linda Luisa Varela Tychsen, and she has such an interesting story to tell in her book, The Torchbearer's Exorcism. And Linda, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, it's great to be here.
So you heard my introduction, and it really is true. I don't just throw that out lightly because I read a lot, you got to pull me in, and you pulled us in right in the beginning. So the first question is, how'd you come up with this story, and why did you write the book?
So I've been ruminating for a long time on trying to do a romantic novel, and actually the source of the story comes from the fact that my first work has no romance in it, and the editors were a little upset. They had wanted there to be some romance, and I said, no, the first work is actually about employment. It's not a romance. So when I did the second one, I thought, okay, so this one will now do a romance, and I wanted it to be a sort of a funny, lighthearted college tale, but it evolved a bit when I got feedback from my friends, and they were more interested in the more serious and realistic side than the Animal House type experiences that somebody might have. So it ended up being a sort of an examination of relationships and how first relationships can mark your persona.
Boy, so true. And that's what really grabbed me. So you've nailed it, of course. The first relationships and how important that is. And that is kind of blown off. Sometimes it's what we say, you meet the representatives of people, right?
Yeah.
And then when you peel the layers, it's a lot different. And you get so much of that in this book. It's just absolutely rich. So tell us about the story. If you and I meet and I say, wow, The Torchbearer's Exorcism, tell me in a nutshell what it's about.
So the story is about Cherie, who is a girl who's in her first day at university when she falls in love instantly at first sight with a guy that she doesn't know, and the evolution of the relationship between her and David. And the way the relationship evolves has a lot to do with how she perceives relationships in general, and the kind of gender roles she's been taught when she grew up, and the kind of expectations that she has. And I think the most evident thing in the story between Cherie and David is the fact that she has her expectations and her thoughts, but she can't read his mind. And so she's constantly questioning what's going on the other side. And for good reason, it turns out at the end.
Yeah, don't give us the ending. Don't spoil it. Spoiler alert. What do you hope people take away from reading the book?
Well, I hope people can relate to the way a woman feels when she's going through her emotional ups and downs. I've gotten a lot of reader feedback that they find it really gratifying to read a story where they find themselves identified with the way the woman is thinking and feeling about her relationship and the way she's reacting to the men that she's interacting with. And so I hope that maybe different readers can take on a new perspective from the women's side.
Was it fun for you to write this book?
It was. It was especially fun at first, and then it started to be more introspective as I got the feedback that people were more interested in the more realistic side of the relationship and the more heart-wrenching bits. It started to become a bit of a catharsis and a bit of an exorcism of my own in the end. Yeah.
Wow. So in a way that's tough, right? But then you get through it and then you see the other side of that.
Exactly. And so does the character. So I think it's a very important message at the end that you should be able to be happy on your own. Whether or not you find the right person doesn't define who you are or whether your life is enjoyable.
Boy, that's an important message, that's for sure. Certainly with some of what we've seen, what people go through, and then how they come out on the other side. I love the title of the book, The Torchbearer's Exorcism. Was that just rattling around in your head, and how did you pull that out?
So it was. I was thinking constantly about how she carries a torch, and she keeps carrying the torch forever and ever, and she really has a hard time letting it go. So I thought, the whole process of the book is her way to exercise that torch from her persona, and that's where that comes from.
So I can only imagine that there's more rattling around in your brilliant head, that you want to put some more stuff out there, more novels. What are you working on now?
I'm working on another sort of a romance, but a bit more lighthearted. So maybe a bit more of a comedy again.
And has it been fun writing that too?
Yeah, it is. It is a lot of fun to write. Yeah, I get to incorporate a lot of experiences and stories of different friends of mine from over the years. So I really like that.
Yeah, and I wanted to tell everybody listening to this too, because we certainly have people listening to us overseas and in the States. So you have an interesting background. I think it's worth mentioning that you've lived in quite a few places. Tell the listeners about your traveling adventures and where you grew up.
So I grew up between Illinois in the United States in a place called the Quad Cities and Madrid in Spain. And when I finished university, I went straight to Madrid as soon as I could because I wanted to live there. But the job market in Spain is not so great, and it hasn't been for a long time. So I ended up going to the UK. I lived in Scotland for a while, and then I lived in England for about 10 years. And since Brexit, the vote for Brexit, I decided I wanted to leave. So now I'm in the Netherlands. I've been in the Netherlands for about 3 years now.
And I'm just thinking off the top of my head, you must speak fluent Spanish, yes. I'm assuming, and the what we call the good kind, because I went to school in Madrid, Castilian Spanish, so it's a lot different. What's it like adapting to these different places? Is it kind of fun?
It is fun, and it's a big struggle at first, and it's very exciting, and it's very tiring sometimes to have to figure out how to navigate different health service systems or the town hall when you need to register for something, or even how to get a bank account sometimes can be a challenge. But it's really exciting to be able to live new places and learn new cultures and understand how different people think. And I think that's a really important thing, because if you haven't lived in a place and really lived with the people, you don't really get their perspective. And you don't understand a lot of the experiences they have. I've often come across that when you try and explain something to different people, if they haven't lived in a similar situation, they find it really hard to believe. And also one of the things, going back to the book, it's also one of the things I think is really important. Like a lot of people, they don't understand the perspective of the other side of the relationship. And I think maybe it's a good thing if they kind of get a glimpse of it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that back around to it. That's why I asked you that question. So the Torchbearer's Exorcism, you can get that on Amazon. And how can people even get in touch with you?
I have a website. It's the torchbearersexorcism.com, and I have a link there to my email, or there's a Facebook page as well for the book that you can easily message me through.
Yeah, and I like that as we're talking about here, we talk about the woman's perspective of what happens and the fact that she carries the torch, And as you said, the main message in taking this at the end is that, hey, you can get through that, and you've got to love yourself basically as you move through life. And that's clearly evident there. And because now we've seen that the world is changing for women in a big way in the United States, that certainly has broken in a different direction, and it's affected so many other people as well. And I think that's a good thing for all the guys listening too, who are incredibly supportive and want to see this happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And I think that clearly the book is entertaining and anyone can read it. Any adult can read it and absolutely be, I think, thrilled by it. I'm giving a copy to my nephew who's 19. So beware of that first love. So thank you so much for joining us on the show. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.